All right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. So, first of all, it's great to see everybody joining us. People joining us live in the camera call, people joining us live via YouTube. It's great in these challenging times to be able to keep the learning going and broadcast events live into the homes of parents, of students, of educators all across North America. Great to see so many people carrying on the learning. Now, today's event is a really special event. I'm pretty excited for today's event. So many of you may have been tuning in over the last several months as we've had connections with Sunniva Sorby and Hilde Strom. They have been in Svalbard for over 8 months, living in a remote trapper's cabin, Bamsebu. Along the way, they've been taking part in all kinds of incredible citizen science projects, ranging from taking phytoplankton samples, monitoring the auroras, taking ice thickness, all kinds of amazing citizen science projects. And really special, they've been connecting all along with students all across North America and beyond, broadcasting live from the trapper's cabin, their only neighbors being polar bears for 140 kilometers, to share some of the amazing work they're doing, the inspiring work they're doing, to try and get people to think more about protecting our planet, protecting our environment. So we've had events with amazing speakers on climate change, on biodiversity, on the polar regions. It's been an absolute blast. And today is really special because I have not seen these two ladies on camera in over 9 months. It's all been through satellite calls from Svalbard. So it's incredible to see the two of you on camera looking so good. And I mean, what you've done so far has just been amazing. It's been a blast to share it. And we're so excited to share a little bit of it today. In fact, I'm going to share my screen right now as you guys take over, because this is a special call today. There we go. Everybody should see this picture here. I am going to highlight it on my screen just for a moment here. So we'll take a look. And Hilde and Sunniva, if you want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here.
That is not every ordinary day at Bamsebu, which is our cabin in the back with our little hearts in the ice flag waving in the wind. But we are proudly holding up a flag that represents the emblem for Trafalgar. Spem successus ali, success nourishes hope. Both my sister and I, Bettina, who is on the call, and I graduated from there. And it's a school that truly provided the foundation for a lot of values that I carried forward, that as any teenager, kind of wander off on a side road and come back on the main road. But my experience there, especially the embrace from the teachers and the community beyond high school, which has been so powerful, just the importance of staying connected to your roots. And where you come from. And Traf is really part of my roots, and now it's part of Hilde's roots. And so it's with pride that we actually held up that flag. And this is for all of you that are connected to Trafalgar. And there are many. We have a lot of old girls that have graduated, that have gone on to do incredible things. And I think that all women are incredible. And how lucky are we to have some connection to Trafalgar? So that's what this flag represents.
All right, excellent. Well, like I said, it just seems so strange to not just hear your voices, but to see you as well. We would love, to hear a little bit about what the last 8 months have been like.
That's going to be really hard because we have taken photos like paparazzi at Bamsebu, the wildlife, the shifting ice, the light that's changing. Hilde has a talk about that, because that was really powerful to hear that you photograph a very specific mountain every time.
Yeah.
And it changes all the time. And do you want to talk about that? Or
sure. Just for me to try to document the changes in the seasons. It's a beautiful mountain. It's hard to describe. It looks like a little bit like a pyramid, but it's flat on the top. And I'm sure it's a perfect ski mountain. We haven't been there skiing yet, but I think the downhill there must be absolutely fantastic. So it's a very tempting and very picturesque mountain. And I've taken picture of that now for, I think, ever since we came. The same frame, the same big length and all that. So it's going to be fun to see how that develops, or if we set that into a slideshow and see how it changed. And we have taken picture of everything. And especially the light has been the northern light, and Sunniva's first experience with that has been just
great. Nobody but her could get me outside in minus 32-degree temperatures. And you know what? Cameras can even function in that temperature. We shouldn't be, but we get out in the polar night and photograph the aurora, and to feel so connected to our natural world in the way that we have experienced in the 8 months. It's very emotional. I almost have no words. Sorry. It's so big. It's so big. Obviously I haven't processed. Is there a psychologist? I'm just kidding. But it's this isolation that we've been in has allowed for a very, very deep connectedness to nature. And that is truly, for all of us, our home.
Yeah, and
it's I just want to share, it's our home far more than the civilized world, although we don't realize that. And it's emotional because there's so much shit going on right now that it's hard to grasp. Sorry, it's not menopause, I swear. I'm over that. But I think that it's been a very, very powerful experience to melt into our landscape the way we have. And it's been exceptionally big to observe the changes out there, but more importantly, observe the changes here. And that's probably why I'm kind of crying right now, is like, geez, if I could tell everybody that the biggest gift that you have to experience out there is not in a store, or it's not something that you can buy. It's actually out there. It's out there, the silence, the self-reflection. What a luxury we have to go out and self-reflect. And while it's initially difficult to face your demons, because we all have them, let's face it, it ultimately, and it's uncomfortable, it ultimately gives us the ability to experience a way to bring us back into balance as people. And I think that we have had some really we've cried our eyes out. Look, we have. Not because we're sad, because we're just, sorry, Joe, you're like, oh God. But because we are so overflowing with gratitude for an experience that, we will articulate in words. We're working on a book. We will articulate in the documentary, which is ongoing now. But it's like, for all of you on the call right now, we're living in a time where we are like, Mother Nature is almost begging us to come and explore her and experience her and feel her. And how dare us, right, to disregard the resources and richness that exists out there. And so just with our science work and everything, we have learned a tremendous amount. My learning didn't stop at TRAF, thank God. It continues on to this day, and we have both been pioneers, absolutely. We made history, absolutely. But more than anything, we have stayed students. We have stayed on the curious end of things, and just even learning how to photograph the aurora, and because it's everything requires a tremendous amount of patience, and get your own ego out of the way to stay present to the richness of the experience that you're going to document, whether it's writing or any of that. So it's I feel like I'm kind of spread out with my thoughts right here, but it has been a a very, very transformative experience, and one that has not been about us at all. We're sitting on the call with you, but this has really largely been about the community of people on the phone call right now, and also our sponsors and partners. And it's just the energy. We're like the nucleus, but the energy around what's happening, hearts in the ice, the beating heart of that is everybody connected. And it's been unbelievable to stay true to our values as women, and in alignment with all of that, with everybody connected. We are powerful beyond words, us people, us
together,
women.
Yep. I was trying to figure out what was missing from the call, because we gained something in being able to see you, and what's missing is the wind howling through the cabin in the background. I heard a lot in the calls. We'd often connect during a storm or something, and you could hear the wind in the background.
Would you like me to play that for you?
No, I like this better. Being able to see is a good replacement. We'll go with that. So I know we have a little video clip to kind of summarize a little bit of the experience. Is that something that you think now might be a good time to jump into?
Sure.
All right. Give me just one moment to spotlight my screen, and I will get it sharing. All right, there it is. And actually, I just want to fix the volume here. I want to share my computer sound. There we go. Okay, here we go.
But it isn't English.
Vi er ikke flinke nok, kanskje som kvinner, å selge inn dramatikken i det vi skal gjøre. For meg er dette helt naturlig. Men det er jo litt utenom det vanlige. Og det er historisk også, som er litt morsomt. Men jeg bare lurer på om det hadde vært lettere hvis jeg var en mann. For den finansielle biten av det har vært en litt sånn tung vei å gå. Og vi er ikke på plass enda. Og vi har 4 måneder igjen.
I mean, preparation is key to any successful venture. And as hard as it is to actually even come here for the time that we're coming here in terms of all the logistics that Hilde's had to go through, and just even planning for a training trip is an expedition in itself. And so she has spent many months preparing for our testing trip. So that's a mini expedition. And there's no option to not come here and test equipment, because this is the real deal. This is us completely disconnected from the outside world, self-sufficient, with all our, decades plus of experience. That's going to come in handy for certain. But then there's us wanting to live as sustainably and as thoughtfully as possible, and that requires, believe it or not, a tremendous amount of effort from both our equipment and the supplies that we'll be getting.
Så skal vel berges. Skal i hvert fall kjempe for vannet vårt. har vært her. Han gikk her, men jeg bare lurer på om han har snusa. Det ville jo ikke vært noe rart, for der er det jo mat. Da går vi inn i mørketida med bjørn rundt veggene, Sunniva.
Ja, men det var et godt minne av herregud.
Ja, det er greit å bli påminnet at de er her. Så har vi hatt 10 isbjørner på besøk på 5 dager. Så er det greit å ha en vinduslem med spiker på om natta. Hva driver du etter da? Pusser du tennene? Ja.
Today is March 9th. It's a full moon, and it's the first time that I see the sun since October. Oh, I have to open up the window. Oh, look at this. There it is. There it is.
All right, so let me come back from that screen share. So that was awesome to see because, when I watched that little bit where you were kind of on that little test, I saw you had the satellite unit that I loaned you on the pre-test. And we've used those satellites to connect on the tops of volcanoes, from coral islands in the middle of the ocean, from the middle of the rainforest. And you were so remote, so far north that satellite unit could not make the connection. So, I mean, talk about isolation, talk about being off the grid. I mean, what the two of you have done over the last 8 months or so is just absolutely incredible.
Thanks, Joe. I want to call on Hilde right now to explain the Norwegian text in the very beginning, because I think it's sort of pertinent to the call too.
Yeah, well, I guess it's only Bettina that understood, and Kim, of course, that understood that. So it's just about me explaining that I don't think that female or women for an expedition like this we're not good enough to sell it in, to be dramatize it enough. I don't know, make it that people sort of want to join us. But so the funding part has been a hard travel. It has been a difficult task, especially before we left. And the question I asked in the film, would it be easier if we were men? That was the first question. And then I was commenting on that to me, this is a little bit ordinary what we're doing. It's not ordinary being away for 9 months, but no, but I mean, I've been living up here for so many years, but it is a bit extraordinary what we have done. And the fun part of this is that we just made history. It hasn't been done by 2 women ever before without men. So yeah, that was what I shared in the beginning there.
And this is our first video call to anchor and honor that. So this is just really special.
And we have had, I mean, experts, as you said, Joe, with us along the way in your classrooms. And Kim is one of the, I mean, he's the best ever when it comes to talk about what we're about to talk about now. So.
Yeah. So I was just looking over at the YouTube feed where we have people joining in live. There's almost 200 groups joining in live with us right now via YouTube. Some of them, the teachers have said, our classes so enjoyed following along and being with you. So we had well over 5,000 students join you virtually live at Bamsebu during this. And that doesn't even count how many have watched the recordings live via YouTube. And along the way, you've always provided us with such awesome experts to work with, like Kim. So I'm going to introduce Kim, and I'm going to let Kim share a little bit about himself. So Kim, I'm going to pop on your microphone here, and I'm going to give you a little introduction. So Kim Holman is the International Director of the Norwegian Polar Institute and has 30 years of field experience monitoring climate in Svalbard, Antarctica, and Siberia. Kim, we had it feels like forever ago when we had our chats in 2019, but it's so good to see you now. We're excited to learn a little bit more about what you're up to.
All right, thank you for that. And I will actually share a screen with you all. There we are. Well, it's an honor to be invited to speak to you at this occasion. I admire what Sunniva and Hilde have been doing and are doing, and I want to put some perspectives. They asked me to say a few things about climate and maybe COVID-19 and the relation to hearts and ice. I mean, they are doing a lot of very fine science for us, collecting data, but there are many other connections. They did not mention that this winter has been unusually cold here in Svalbard compared to the last 15 years. So, and I want to put that in some perspective as well. Of course, all of you know that we are talking about Svalbard, the islands north of Norway and to the east of Greenland. This area has had unusually large amounts of ice. So this is ice map from just 2 days ago. And the white area is where there is ice right now. This yellow line here is where there has been ice historically. And we see that there is more ice than usual just around us. But there are many other areas where in fact there is much less ice than there used to be. The blue sort of north of the yellow line over on the Pacific side up here, but also down along Greenland and Canada. And in fact, despite the fact that we have a lot of ice around the islands here, this year, April has been the least amount of ice that we have observed in the Arctic as a whole. So you have had it cold, I have had it cold here in Longyearbyen, but indeed the warming of the planet is relentless. If we look at the world's temperature, the 2019 was the third warmest year on record, and thus far in 2020, we are well above that as well. So it is relentless. If you look at some anomalies around the globe, we've had it cold in Svalbard. Alaska had its coldest February since 1999. But if we look around, there are other places. Asia has had a very warm winter, still warm. Europe has the second warmest February. The contiguous United States have been fairly warm, but the Caribbean is its warmest ever. The Caribbean water gives hurricanes. You will see hurricanes this season, but it also gives warm water coming with the Gulf Stream up here. So in the years to come, there is more warm water coming. There are other places, South America, Antarctica, extremely warm. So despite the cold here, it is still ongoing. When we talk about climate change, we must remember that climate is very different. The picture to the right could be used in a children's book to illustrate the Ice Age. The picture to the left could be used in a children's book to illustrate the time of the dinosaurs. We have both right now on the planet today. And whenever we talk about change, we must always ask when and where. And yes, it has been cold in Svalbard this winter, but it is only a small point on the planet. The planet is warming. The work that's, the data that Sunniva and Hilde have been collecting is important for us. We must ask ourselves the question, is climate changing? Are these changes unique? We must ask the reasons for the change. Just because it's warmer doesn't mean that it is humankind, the greenhouse gases. There are also natural variations, so the sunlight and other things have to be measured. And of course, we must not forget that we humans are big. We are changing the face of the planet in so many ways. Overfishing, land use, farming, whatever. There are very many other changes ongoing as well. And of course, some of the observations that Sunniva and Hilde have been collecting are important for us when we look at the effects of climate change on ecosystems. But in a bigger picture for agriculture and infrastructure, what kinds of bridges do we need? What kinds of walls should we build on our shorelines to protect ourselves? The question of human health and climate has been discussed for a long time, and I myself was part of this many years ago. And the warming of the planet creates risks, and this text, human health, climate change is likely to have wide-ranging and mostly adverse impacts on human health with significant loss of life. This was part of the IPCC report in 1995. And some of the things we discussed then were pandemics and viruses. This picture from Kathmandu in Nepal shows new meetings between humans and animals. The crowdedness, the ecosystems that are being destroyed move animals closer to us, and we interact with animals. And 75% of all emerging infectious diseases come from animals. And the more meetings we have with bats and chimpanzees and other wildlife, the larger risks are we encountering. Ebola, COVID-19 or coronavirus, they all come from there. Climate change changes the distribution of animals. The warming Caribbean gives a warmer Gulf Stream. Here we have the Svalbard Islands, and this water coming up here is warmer and warmer relentlessly year from year. And it brings new species that I just discussed as a risk factor. This is some of my students were in 2 years ago and found a new jellyfish that came around. This is a bird that you might have seen a few times at Bamsebu. It's Brunich guillemot. Canadians might call it a thick-billed murre. It is an example of a bird under pressure because of climate change. And this figure shows from 1999 how the populations in all these mountains here has been declining for some time now, for 15 years or so. But there's more to it. This is a Brunich guillemot that is dead. Here, right here on the board, is something. And if we blow that up, you can see down here, it's a tick. Because of the warm winters, there is more and more ticks and thus virus vectors that are killing the birds on the bird cliffs. So the warmer winters is part of that. So there are very strong connections between climate change as we observe it and diseases. I want to close just with 2 slides. How can we get people to understand the urgency? It's a question I get very often about when I teach about climate change. And some say, don't you think we need a catastrophe so people will wake up? I'm not so sure. I think we are more civilized than that. We do not need to see dead people in order to react. The civilization is stronger than that. And in fact, the catastrophe is not enough for some people. Brazil's president has commented on the coronavirus by reassuring his citizens that Brazilians can bathe in excrement and nothing happens. A catastrophe, people dying, is not enough to convince everyone. And I think the most important thing that this program is doing, that we all are doing, is education. Teaching young people about the world. Together, if we teach them critical thinking, respect for different views, and dialogue, we can empower boys, girls, women to fulfill and enrich themselves as well as their cultures. And education is the foundation of democracy. So Hilde and Sunniva, what you are doing is so important, not only to spread knowledge about climate change, but for society at large. I hope people see the changes and the importance of Svalbard and the Norwegian Arctic, and certainly what we are learning from the experiences of these great ladies is important. I hope others will be able to experience sea ice like they have. It certainly is something that we have to be careful with. So thank you, Hilde and Sunniva.
Thank you, Kim. Tusen hjärtligt tack.
Tusen tack, Kim.
All right, thank you so much, Kim. That was a great presentation. Really kind of, tied everything together and really what is at stake. And Hilde and Sunniva, I'm sure that this is a lot of the things that you were thinking about when you first planned this expedition, this journey. To spend the time overwintering, do the citizen science, document it, and share all your learning and everything that you saw and experienced with everybody else.
It has been a lot more than we anticipated in the beginning. And this is just we have one from Kim too, but we have, lots of material around protocol to collect the data that we're collecting. And it's very, very detailed. And my hat's off to the scientists and the willingness to work with citizens like Hilde and I to bridge the gap, if you will, so that we can build stories around it so people can be curious and understand a little bit more. So it's definitely a collaborative effort, but it's been super interesting to understand why in the world insects might be important, and just understanding the polar bear habitat, the sea ice distribution and it changing. It's just, there's a tremendous amount to hold a pulse on.
Yeah, and it's a lot to choose between. It's a lot of fun, and it's something for, if you're a kid or if you're an adult, you can find your interest within the science and the citizen science project. I'm sure it's so much fun, and it feels so important to be part of all this and to be relevant for the scientists, and we don't know anything about science. So yeah, has been really interesting.
I want to share my screen one more time. I've got a nice picture of the two of you out monitoring the auroras, doing a little citizen science at the top of the world. So I thought I'd share this little image here. And then there's obviously another little picture here of just what it was that you were looking at. So pretty beautiful. getting to spend your nights and I guess long days with the auroras.
Yeah, it
it's
has been
incredible, the citizen science work.
Yeah, been fantastic.
All right. Well, I think if you're up for it, that we should start taking some questions, because I bet there is a ton of questions about all aspects of this incredible journey. I do want to give a huge shout out. So joining us not only in the call in a variety of camera spots, but also live on YouTube. We have the Trafalgar Independent High School for Girls in Montreal, Quebec in Canada. So as mentioned before, Sunniva is an alumna from 1978. And so joining us now are teachers and students from the school current. There's former staff, there's alumni, there's a lot tuning in. So that's a ton of fun. Anybody who has a question can raise your hand virtually via the chat sidebar, and we'll get to those questions. While we wait for those hands to start coming up, I've got a great question here from Nadia. This came in from YouTube. And in that video, there's that, the boat's leaving, the horn is going. We can see the two of you on shore and everybody's watching you. And Nadia wants to know, what were you feeling as the boat was leaving and you knew what was ahead?
Well, that was a very powerful feeling. I mean, you won't be able to reach them in such a long time. You know you're going to be so far away for so many months, and you're on your own, and you have this huge area around you, and no buildings, no people, no nothing, just the two of us and Etra. That was very powerful. We were sort of prepared, but still not. So and I mean, all our loved ones were on board that ship, and Kim was there, Bettina was there, that's on the call now. So no, that was really, really powerful.
Our tank was full from that send-off trip, and we just sort of like gushed, overflowed, because it was time to start. And that's what it truly felt like when the ship left, and we didn't expect the ship to come back around inside the bay, and then Captain, who knows Hilde really well, blow the horn again. And it was just, wow, did we just do that? Were we just part of all that just now? And now we're here completely by ourselves. There could not have been a difference in experience from what we left to what we were going to.
All right.
Powerful.
So we have Ann Wood. Her microphone is on. Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, two-part question, although you may have answered the second part a little bit. I was wondering, did you discover anything that you really did not expect? First, from the science point of view and the tests you were doing, or what you were learning from that. Did something really surprise you that you didn't expect to see? And also with all the preparation and planning that you've done, also from the personal side. I mean, you've all done you've done tough things before and adventures, and you planned for this. But did something surprise you about your personal reactions to this?
Do you want me to start? Or?
Yeah, you can start.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot in that question, Anne, and thank you for that. I'll start maybe with the personal, and then I'll go into the data. A lot of the data we collected, we won't know what that tells us, but we did see some things along the way that surprised us, which I'll share in a second. On a personal level, I don't know who I'm going to be with. I did not know who would show up to play when I had 3.5 months of darkness, and I was surprised that it went okay. That I had this cloud over me the entire time that felt like I never really fully woke up. I'm embarrassed to say. And that's because there was no natural light around me at all. And so that part was challenging. I probably did not expect to meet other parts of myself there. They came out too. And that's I get to say that at this time in my life because it's actually a beautiful homecoming. It's a very powerful time to reconcile all the unrequited dreams you might have, and leaving your ego at the door is an absolute must on a trip like this, on an experience like this, because this has been from the get-go not a something to pound our chests and say, look at what we've done. It's really been about the power of community and the power of our networks and our experience in the Arctic and the Antarctic, and putting that all out there and saying, you know what, we care about the place that helped us grow up, which is all out there. And so I think if there was a surprise in me personally, it was how deeply passionate I became and how aligned and how real and meaningful it became, not just on a school call or in one of our citizen science duties, but every single day we woke up with purpose and meaning. And wow, if that doesn't light your fire, I'm not sure what will. And so there's a powerful message there to share back with everybody too, is that regardless of where we are at this time in our lives or what we do for a living, we all have a purpose, and that is to really problem solve right now and to share love and community and our resources with others, because things are out of balance. So that's a personal part of that. And
yeah, I can just share. To me, it was very interesting I was surprised that I learned so much. I knew the Arctic quite well from my 25 years of staying here, or living here. But what I learned through the science project, what I learned together with Joe and the experts, how phytoplankton, to collect phytoplankton in the ocean that produce more than half of the oxygen that we have in the world. And so much, all the small wonders, all the power of nature that I already knew, but that I had even closer to our experience 24/7 out in the tiny huts, so extremely remote. So yeah.
And experience, and sorry, we have lost the share, obviously, me keep talking. We saw a polar bear running off in the distance, and we did ride the snowmobile off because we could see something, and we found a dead reindeer. And
we were walking, actually, which is more
we
scary.
were walking first, and we went back to get the
scary.
snowmobile. But it was just a shock to think that, from my perspective, that a polar bear actually hunted a reindeer, but it happened. And Kim can share more about that, but Hilde has seen that a few times. And it's just lots of questions around that. Are they, just their primary food source is a seal? So
on the ice.
A lot of things that we observed along the way that seemed like adaptation at its finest.
All right, great question to get us started. Lucy has her hand up. If you want to turn your mic on for me, Lucy, we're ready for you.
So I was wondering if would they still be the people would you still be in quarantine there, or
No, and the reason why is that here at Svalbard we don't have the coronavirus. Actually, it's a little bit more than 2,000 people here now, maybe 2,300 people that's staying here now. And if they go to the mainland and come back, they will be in a 14 days home quarantine. But me and Sunniva, we have been so far away from all this virus. So coming back for us to Longyearbyen, the little settlement here, we're not in quarantine, and we're probably the healthiest people
most vulnerable,
and also the most vulnerable at Svalbard. So yeah, good question, but no, luckily not. But we are sort of in quarantine, staying at Bamsebu for that long. We don't see people. So,
hi, Lucy.
Hi, Lucy. Thank you.
Good question.
All right, Jane Whiteman, if you want to turn your microphone. Oh, it's on. There we go.
Okay, just a couple of questions. So is it on?
Yep, we gotcha.
Yeah, okay, couple of questions. And one is, what has been your biggest challenge? And number two is, what can we learn? What's the most important thing we can learn from your collective experiences?
Thanks for easy questions, Jane.
I think somebody always said I only have one question, but it's really two.
Mm.
And her
You
name
might
was
have to
Sunniva.
repeat them, but you want to go ahead?
Well, the biggest challenge. I mean, we have had challenging with keeping ourselves warm. We woke up in the morning. It was -degrees inside the hut. As Kim said, it has been a very, very cold winter. And Etra, he says she's actually coming here. We're going to show her. She has sort of kept us warm. Here she is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she's a beautiful dog.
Yeah.
So we woke up in the morning and lit the fire. So keeping ourselves warm is one thing, and we've had accidents with the door were ripped off during a hurricane. We have had challenging stuff with our engines, and no one. Well, we could ask. I could ask Steinar, but we didn't have anyone to come and fix it. We had to fix it ourselves. The Wi-Fi antenna. So we've had quite a lot of the weather. We have had polar bears visiting us. We thought once that the polar bear had taken Etra when we came back. So,
Wow.
but also, I mean, also being so remote from everyone and being just the two of us, it's obviously also a challenging part, but we made it.
Mm.
Yeah. And the other question.
What was your other question, Jane?
What do you think is the most important thing we can learn from your experiences?
Hmm. Wow. I wish I had an easy answer for that. I don't. I'll try. I think right now is the absolute perfect time to experiment with living differently.
Mm-hmm.
Observe what it takes to stay in balance, not just for yourself, but also with the environment around us. If there's something that we have experienced right now with the changing climate and COVID, it's that our Earth is spinning on an axis off balance, you know? And we all, every single one of us have a role to play in that. I used to think that it wouldn't matter if I did something that wasn't right and somebody wouldn't see it. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I know that's recycling in it, but are they going to really recycle it, pick it up and separate it? It starts little things like that, but how important it is that we stand rooted in what we value as people, as an individual, and do the work to really examine what you value as an individual, and then or surround yourself with people in community that value the same thing or the same things, and then work on building community out there so that the world benefits, so that our communities benefit from the power of one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mother Nature needs her daughters.
All right, we've got another question here. Let me, Paloma, if you want to unmute for me, we're ready. Oops.
Weather, like from what you were wearing and the cabin that you lived in.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I was wondering what you were wearing, like how you dealt with the weather from what you were wearing to the cabin that you lived in.
Yeah, we were 24/7. We had a wool underwear, long johns and wool top. So we slept in that, and we had down blankets. So that was one way to keep warm during night. And when we were outside, we had huge snowmobile suits. That's like, you can go to the moon in them, I'm sure. They're heavy and they're very thick and warm. So even if we stayed out for hours, we kept quite warm actually. But we really had to cover every spot in our faces. We had goggles, heavy gloves, and big boots. So yeah.
And that's just to get dressed. Then there's the element in the polar night where it's dark. So you need a really, really strong headlamp. and night vision binoculars. And there was 17 of us there. Those are all my personalities. We both wore a belt that had, a Swiss Army tool and a knife and a flare gun and a revolver. And we never, ever went outside the hut without that. And that was because a polar bear could literally be lurking around the side. So going outside was
an expedition,
an ordeal.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Great question. Stephanie, let me see if I can. Oh, Stephanie, you'll have to unmute for me.
Hi. I was just wondering what respective fields of study did the two of you pursue to reach this point in your career?
Okay, that is a great question. And I'm going to quote Einstein because that makes me sound really smart right now. I have no hidden talents. I'm merely passionately curious. We both are in the adventure tourism industry, and we both have a lot of experience in different things along the way. But science has always been a fascination for both of us. The outdoors, changing climate, weather, but to become a citizen scientist, which is really what we were. I think what was extremely important there was understanding the protocol and the deliberate effort it took to actually follow through. Not just saying, yes, we'll do this, and it sounds good to do this, and then when it actually comes time to do this, it's way too much work, and so no thank you. We were really dedicated and committed to fulfilling our tasks, despite the wind, despite the cold, despite, everything, our mood. And so I think that, Buckminster Fuller is? Bucky Fuller, he designed the geodesic dome, and he said the specialist bird is greatly impeded by its wings when trying to fly. And that means that we're living in a time, and especially this project really speaks to the fact that there's no one career choice that we've made to lead us here. We have to remain flexible as individuals, and we have been to really take all the things we've learned from all of the different careers we've had and ways we've moved around and bring that in to be relevant today. And that's how we actually started Hearts in the Ice. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to grab two more questions from our live groups. We have two more hands up. So Nalima, if you want to unmute for me, you can go ahead. All right, Nalima, if you can find the mute, it looks like a microphone. If you click on it, it should, maybe they accidentally hung up. Okay, let's go to Circe. Circe, if you want to unmute for me, we'd love to take one of your questions.
Hi. So I was wondering what the transition was like for when you got back home, and how you kind of dealt with it, if it was a lot different.
Oh, good question.
Well, we knew it was going to be a huge culture shock. And also maybe it's even stronger than we predicted, because the settlement is the world is turned upside down. So I don't think we completely digested. I haven't, at least yet. But knowing that we are going back this weekend doesn't even give us time enough to land here, or to sort of settle here. It's but I mean, it was great. We just said earlier, it was great going to the store today. I mean, we could shop and having a shower and washing clothes in a ordinary manner. I mean, it has given us quite some thoughts around how much water we are using in an ordinary life, how unnecessary it is to take a shower every day. Even though we've kept clean, but we didn't have a shower since we left in September. So, and also all the water we use for washing clothes and all that. It has been, what do you say, a wake-up call in many ways, staying at Bamsebu. So really sustainable and simple life, basic.
And it begs the question, can we make better economic choices in order to create a sustainable, sustainable living habits? Period.
All right. Nalima, I can see that you're back and your hand is up. There we go.
Sorry, I lost my connection to you. I have a question about how you might use your experience to galvanize political change. You've come out at a really interesting time where I think there is a definite momentum behind how we might move forward as a global society, a globalized society. And I think climate change and international governance around climate is really at the heart of some of these key questions that many people are grappling with. So do you have any particular plans? If not, are you thinking about how you might do that? I'd be curious to hear your reflections.
You want me to share to that? Absolutely. Aside from the fact that we are working on a book and a documentary, and that doesn't speak specifically to your question, which was a great one. We have been surrounding ourselves with other strong female leaders that have a real voice in the political arena to understand and ask the question that you just asked, because we don't have the answers for that right now. What we are understanding and what we've always understood is that we need to hold our leaders accountable. And if we don't examine our own value-based system, how can we expect others to do that? Wasn't it who said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything? So I think that the stronger we are, and we're working on that now in our messaging around our experience and how to galvanize and how to mobilize, which we're working on, we hope to be voices on the front end of this experience, and also on the front end of climate changing, but also youth. I mean, let's look at, there are lots of Greta Thunbergs out there, and they're at TRAF, and you know, there could not be a more important time to actually put the mirror backwards and engage, as we have with Joe through our school calls along the way, the wisdom of the younger generation and the leadership that exists there. So we're hoping through the community and network we've created that we can continue to explore the very question that you asked, so that we can find ways to move and continue to move. After, we plan to be at Bamsebu until September. After that, we don't know yet. If we have to stay for another winter, we don't know anything yet. So, but we will continue to beat the drum for making certain that there's accountability and action, and that it's based on a very clear set of values that include everybody.
All right, Nancy, I can see your hand is up. I'm going to give you the final question.
And how lucky for me that I get to ask the final question to Sunniva and Hilde. I'm so proud of you both, ladies. You are truly remarkable, not just in what you've accomplished, but in the way that you talk about the world and the message that you are sending to all of us. And so I thank you for that. You talked of going back and through until September. Was that always the plan, or is that as a result of where we are in the world today? And how do you feel about having to perhaps go back when it would have been nice to be spending time with family and friends?
Oh, yeah. It was no, it wasn't the original plan. We were going to be picked up this week, and coming back next week with the ship and all our fantastic friends and family and supporters. So it was I mean, like the rest of the world, we had to adjust the situation of the world. So we had to cancel a trip. But then we've sort of quite quickly figure out that where do we have value? Where are we relevant just now? Is it back in Longyearbyen and in Squamish? No, it's out there actually, with our platform, with our society, with all you guys helping us with all this. So and now I, at least, and I hope Sunniva too, is really looking forward to a summer. And luckily we have family around us supporting that decision. We're really fortunate that way. And so it was mixed emotions, definitely, in the beginning. But I think we all must have done adaptations the last weeks and months. So, and I think this is the only right thing for us to do right now.
I mean, it's change is the only constant that we've had to deal with for 8 months. And so to say, you know, that we were excited to be picked up from Bamsebu and sort of like go to Greece, or just, you know, just hug my sister who's on the call and just go back and celebrate. We had created this incredibly huge celebration for the pickup trip of which you were part of, Nancy. And so we cried. I mean, it was sad. And yet, you know, when we got through that, it was just, wow, what in the world is going on out there? How must people be feeling? And how alone some people must feel. My father can't get visitors. My mother can't get visitors. Everybody's dealing with isolation. And so, I mean, honestly, we continue to look at the impact of what we're doing and say, like Hilde just said, we are far more useful as a platform right where we are. And if our experience underscores anything, it's the importance of, you know, water, food, shelter, and companionship and community right there, honestly. So we're going to continue to do that, but that's plan B.
All right, well, I'm going to pass things over now to the head of school at Trafalgar Independent High School for Girls. We have Miss Kathy Nikitas joining us. Let me make sure that microphone gets turned on. Okay.
Hi, thanks so much, Joe. We just wanted to, on behalf of the entire Trafalgar community, I just wanted to say thank you for the time you're giving us today, but everything you've just done and the sacrifices that you've made to give us real information and data for the future and really to inspire us. So that's just number one. That image and your voice when you saw sunlight in March is I think so many of us, I think the empathy we probably have for you has just been elevated given where we've all been. And I guess, you know, to all the girls out there listening, I hope September is our sunrise and that we all get to see each other again then, so that we can all kind of feel that. So thank you, because that was so emotional. And you made us cry then, and poor Bettina was just in tears a few seconds ago. Hugging you, I guess you could see it. So you've just given us so much. And I want to take this opportunity to just announce that Sunniva has been elected our distinguished alumni for 2020. And I think what 2020 means is so huge, right? So yeah, tons of applause. 2020 takes on a different meaning altogether, and it's so appropriate that you be our distinguished alumni. You live SPEM Success Elite in a way that is inspiring to all of us, how you bring hope to our lives. And Sunniva, you are the bridge between SPEM Success Elite and our core four that we move forward with, the notion of openness and curiosity and collaboration and compassion. And you are that bridge. And so there is no more important distinguished alumni that I can imagine in 2020 than you. And I'm sure every TRAF person on this call is nodding their head when I say you are our distinguished alumni for 2020. So thank you so much. And Hilde, Hilda, you took care of her for this time. You were with her, you held our flag. And so when we have our event and Distinguished Alumni event, and we have you all at school, I'd like you to come, and I hope you'll accept being an honorary old girl and getting.
Whoa!
Thank you. Yes, that's all I have to say is our hearts and souls. Thank you for all you've done for us. Thank you.
Wow. Kathy, that was very, 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 very powerful. Thank you. And you know what? These are all from Sharon, photocopies of all the artwork from TRAF students. This has been our light.
Thank you.
And our sun in the darkness. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Well, Hilde and Sunniva, I wonder if you want maybe to wrap things up, maybe a final word, maybe, I don't know, what's going through your mind right now?
I just want to really say thank you to everybody on the call, and please stay in touch with us. You can write us at hiti.bamsebu, BAMSEBU@gmail. We're going to be there through September, and all we want to do is continue to create community and strong leaders out there that can protect what we love, regardless of what that might mean for you. So thank you everybody for being on the call today. It means a lot, and our hearts have grown bigger because of this.
All right. Well, a huge shout out to everybody who tuned in via YouTube. Thank you so much for sending us in some questions. A huge shout out to everybody from Trafalgar who joined us in the call today. Thank you for your great questions. Kim, thank you for being such an excellent guest speaker and sharing your expertise with us. Hilde and Sunniva, obviously it's incredible to have you on screen. Even if it's just for a short period of time, we'll take it. The next call may very well be satellite in a few weeks' time, but it's great to see you happy and healthy on screen, on camera.
You too, and you know what? On Friday, it's quite possible that the Today Show is going to show something in the morning.
All right. Oh. Very cool. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do now is turn on the microphone. So everybody who's in the call with us, you know, obviously we can't hug Hilde and Sunniva because they're pretty far away, but let's try and do it virtually. The big goodbye and thank you is nice and loud. Let's let them feel it all the way over there. Microphones are on. Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys are the best.
Thank you.
Right. Well, once again, thanks everybody for spending some time with us today. It was an absolute great way to cap off the last 8 months, and it sounds like there's still more adventure to come. So we look forward to following along. Hilde and Sunniva, thanks so much. We're going to sign off for today.
Thank you so much, all of you.